What's up, nail friends? In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you this really fun green design with some glass nails, and this is going to be fully sculpted, and I'm going to do step by step from start to finish. So if you guys want to see that, just keep watching. So my client came in with no nails, so I'm just going to prep from start to finish here. So here I'm using a cuticle pusher and scraper, and so I push her cuticles back and then I flip it around and scrape the nail plate to help get up some of that cuticle. Then I've switched over to a cuticle tool and I'm just going in around the cuticle area and removing that dead skin off the nail plate. And then I've switched to a fine sanding band, and I'm just using this on a really low speed just to take the shine off the nails instead of using a hand file for that. So on some of her nails I had to cut the form to fit. So basically you're just going to cut where the hypernickium sticks out too far on her natural nail, and you'll cut that into the form and then it'll slide right under and fit like a glove. So here I'm just applying some forms on her first hand, and then I'm coming in with some clear acrylic, and I'm going to be creating my clear base for the nails. I always create a clear base when sculpting. I just find it's better for when they come back for fill and I can get the right shape before I even start. It's really important to me to get the shape right at the beginning. It just makes it so much easier when it comes down to finish filing. So I decided to start at the cuticle area to build this base and drag it down the form, but I found doing it this way on this hand was a little bit more difficult because I actually wanted the nails longer than I end up getting here, so I end up having to add more in the end. So I am going to show you guys that I do change my technique for her second hand, and I'll show you guys that in just a minute. So here I'm just adding another little bead at the bottom just to extend the nail a little bit longer. So now I'm repeating my process of building my clear base, but I just wanted to tell you guys what brush I'm using. So here I'm using Crystal Nails Extreme Brush. I really like this brush because it's nice and big for when you're doing like longer nails like this and wider nail beds. So this would be equivalent to maybe a 10 or 12. You guys can probably see here that I was struggling a little bit to get that bead down the nail without drying. So here I'm just adding another bead again to extend it a little bit more and to make it a little bit thicker, because I find if it's a little too thin, it won't pinch very well, or it'll be a little bit too flexible when you're trying to take it off the form. You do want it to dry so that you can file it before applying your color. So I am building this up and making it a little bit thicker just so it will dry and be able to be pinched. So skipping ahead a little bit here to the pointer finger, I wanted to show you guys that I did add a bigger bead now and applied it a little bit more wet and worked a little bit faster. I was able to get this all the way down the form and shaped to the shape I want and the thickness I want. So sometimes I find it takes a few nails before I get my rhythm down, but I do still end up switching my technique for the second hand. So I did find that this was a little too much product for me to work with, and I just didn't enjoy doing it this way. So the next hand I'll show you guys the technique I prefer to use. So now when I got our fourth finger done, I come back with my pinching tools, and this is when I start pinching my pinky and I check to see if it's ready. And so you can tell because it'll kind of pop up off the form a little bit. So I started pinching my pinky and finished her thumb, and now I'm moving back over to her other hand here. And I did put this in fast motion and I didn't take anything out, so I just wanted you guys to see how I work. So this is where I switched my technique. I'm starting now at the tip, which I found so much easier, and I build that out to the length I want, and then I move on to the cuticle area. And now I'm coming back and checking if these need to be pinched some more on the other hand, and I'm pinched all the way up to her pointer and her thumb. And now I'm coming back and applying the form on the next finger. So you want the forms to come straight out from the sidewalls, and if you're finding it's not coming straight out, then you may need to cut your form like I did here. So now I'm picking up another bead of clear acrylic with my brush, and again I'm just sculpting right at the tip first, and then I do my cuticle bead. Again, so now I'm coming in and checking if those nails need to be pinched and if they're ready to go, and they were. So then I come back and I apply on the next nail, and so on. So on her first hand, I did apply all the forms and then went forward, but for some reason on this hand, I found I was kind of scared she was going to squish the form, or I was finding it kind of weird having the forms on with the ring finger coming over my finger like that. I just found that sometimes when I'm doing this hand that it's a little bit more difficult, so I apply forms on each finger separately. I don't know. I guess it's just my own technique. And that's just what works for me. So you should always just do what works for you. Okay, so after all the nails have been applied, I come back and I actually file her first hand that I did first because I know those nails are dry. And then I come in to file this hand. So this is the one I just finished, but it's dry now. So I'm just taking my flame bit and I'm just going over top of this nail. So I'm just trying to make it nice and even and make it not too thick because I'm going to be applying acrylic on top of this and then again encapsulating. So this needs to be super thin. Then I'm coming in with a 180 grit hand file and I'm fixing up my shape on the sidewalls and going over the whole nail to even it out some more. So before I start adding color, I make sure to remove all the dust, and then here I'm coming in and I'm measuring her nails, making sure that each nail matches, and if there's any nail that's longer than the other, shorten that now. So here I'm just shortening and fixing up the sidewalls of her ring fingers. I felt the one hand was more tapered and the other hand was a little bit longer. Like I said, I like to make sure my shape is as perfect as it can be before applying my colored acrylic, and that way my finish filing is much easier. So now I'm coming in with my colored acrylic. I'm still using the same brush I was using before, but this color is called Ocean Breeze by Glam and Glits. So it's one of their neon greens, but this one has a slight pearl shimmer in it, making it so easy to work with. So if you had to choose one of the neon greens like this versus Journey to Mars, I would go with this one just because it's a little bit easier to use and they're both lovely colors. So I'm starting around the cuticle area and I'm just using my brush to try to pat it into the place I want. Once I get my cuticle bead exactly where I want it, then I'm taking more of the belly of my brush and kind of patting this down the nail. Then I drag it and feather it down the full tip. And I do this to try to make it more even. So I pat and feather, and you'll want to wipe off your brush if it's wet at all. And then I'm just coming in here and applying another bead right at the very tip because it was a little bit translucent, and I just flipped my brush around and I'm feathering it up the nail. So I noticed that it wasn't completely even at the cuticle area, so I'm just applying a little bit more right there just to make it even. So I'm doing the same thing on the middle finger, but I realized while doing the pinky that because the nail's so long that maybe I should start halfway down the nail. So that's what I did here. I'm applying my tip bead first, and I'm just dragging this down the nail and painting it on. And then I'm going to go in for the cuticle bead. So sometimes when you're doing nails, you have to change your techniques in order to make it work. So because these nails are a little bit longer, I'm not really as used to it. I did realize that starting at the tip was a little bit easier, both with sculpting the clear base and with applying the colored acrylic. Ignore the flaky stuff on her finger. I actually had her scheduled in the week before for a filming set, but she had really bad hangnails and they hadn't healed yet. So here, I made her wait a week. That's why they're looking all flaky, but they're healed now. So there's nothing wrong with her hands, just in case anyone was wondering. So I also applied the green color on her thumb, and then now I'm coming in and I am encapsulating just the green nails because I'm going to be using glitter on the glass nails, and I didn't want to get the glitter on my brush and then into my clear acrylic and then encapsulate these because then you'll accidentally trap some glitter. So I always start doing my solid colors first, encapsulate them, and then go and do the glitter. So that's what I'm doing here. I did apply way too much clear on the pinky, but I will finish file and it won't be so thick at the end. So I'm just going to show you guys that again. I'm applying quite a large bead because of the length of the nails, and I applied it a little bit wetter this time because I realized that with the length I needed a little bit wetter. So I'm applying it right at the cuticle area, and then I'm just using the belly of my brush to sort of like pat it and drag it down the nail, trying not to create a bunch of air bubbles, so try not to work it too much, and I'm just trying to make it nice and even. So for the glittery see-through nails, I'm going to be using some angel paper. So here I'm just cutting up the paper, and to make it faster I cut it into stripes, and then I cut off that chunk, and then you get a bunch of stripes in the same length. So here I'm coming in with Glam and Glits Bliss. So this is a green see-through iridescent glitter mix. It's kind of like Jaunty, so if you guys have Jaunty or Butterfly, but in a green version. So if you guys know what I mean. By using Glam and Glits, you'll know that this is similar to that, but green. So I thought it was really pretty, and I haven't really used it, so I thought lately maybe I should start using some colors that I've never used before, just to show you guys what they look like. So now I'm just applying that angel paper over top of that color, and I wanted this to be really pretty and sparkly and see-through and green. So I'm also incorporating some of those flakes you've seen me use a bunch in my past videos. They're just some iridescent flakies that kind of shine a certain color, so these ones kind of pick up a green color. So I am placing this in the spaces and kind of overlapping it just to give it kind of a dimensional, layered look. So I'm just repeating the process on her pointer finger as well. So Bliss is a glitter mix that is also mixed with clear acrylic, so you don't need to pick up clear acrylic with this mix. You just go right in from your brush, dip it into monomer, and pick up some glitter. So I'm starting around the cuticle area. I always like to pat it into place nice and gently, and then I'm dragging this down the nail and just trying to make this nice and sparse. I'm not really trying to give it full coverage because I do want this nail to still be see-through. So now you can encapsulate these nails. So now I'm going back to the one I did first, and that one's nice and dry. So you don't really want to encapsulate your glittery designs right after applying them, or you can accidentally drag some of it off the nail. So this is nice and dry, and now I'm coming in and I'm just applying my cuticle bead, just trying to get it nice and flush, and then I'm going to pat and drag this down the nail. So this is the bead you can either use to create your apex, or you can just do a small thin bead here and then apply another bead to create your apex. But I personally like to do a one ball method if I possibly can, so that's what I was doing here. When both hands are done, we're going to finish file, so I thought I'd show you guys. This is the bit I use to get around the cuticle area. So this is a medium cone bit in a medium gray. So I use this around the cuticle, and this gets a nice, smooth, kind of flush look to it. I always just use something like this. There's also a smaller one you can use too, and both work great. Then I'm coming in with my flame bit again. You'll want to either use a medium flame bit or whatever flame bit you normally use, but just make sure it's not super sharp so it doesn't go zing around the nail, if you know what I mean. So here I'm just using this to debulk the nail and make sure that my nail is nice and even around the cuticle area, and then I'm coming under the nail, make sure my C curve is in place, and I just really want to debulk, especially this nail because I did make it a little bit too thick. After debulking the nails, I come in with the same 180 grit hand file, and now I'm just adjusting my shape and going over the whole nail to make it nice and even. So I spend a lot of time using my hand file to really perfect my shape, and that's just my personal preference. You can totally get your shape with an Efile, just keep practicing and find whatever works best for you. Then I come in with a white buffing block and just give all the nails a little buff just to make sure there's no deep scratches that you're going to see with your gel top coat. Then you want to cleanse the nails and clean off all the dust. And here's how the nails look so far. And now it's time to decorate them a little bit more. So I'm going to be applying some transfer foil. So here I'm using, it's called the Best Glue Ever. I just got it on Amazon. I'll post a link. And I'm just using a micro swab to put it on the nail. So basically you just want to wipe it in whatever pattern you want. This isn't the most ideal glue to use. I'm just using it because that's all I have. I prefer like the actual transfer foil glue it comes with, but this is a good alternative if you can't find the glue it's supposed to come with. Because I find on Amazon, those ones didn't come with the glue, but I have bought them from like the Dollar Nail Art store or whatever, and they came with it, so I don't know. But anyways, you're just going to apply this where you want it, and then you're going to want to let it dry a little bit. So now I'm going to take my transfer foil, and I like to kind of ball it up in my fingers just so it's not perfect anymore, because when you transfer it, you don't want it to be one solid piece. I just wanted it to kind of be sparse on the nail. So here I'm taking the transfer foil and keep the shiny side up, and then push that into that glue you put down. Now the glue is dry and sticky, it'll pick up the transfer. Gotta add some crystals. So I'm using my Ugly Duckling Stick-It to glue it on, and then I'm using Crystal A, B, and the Crystal Light Opal crystals. So the center crystal there is my SS12. Then I'm using an SS9 on the side, and then SS7s, and then the little one on the bottom is an SS5. You guys can use my code Sarah20 for the month of September only, September 2018, and you'll get 20% off crystals. No limits, no minimum orders, just a great discount for you guys. So make sure to check out my description box for that code. And then here I'm just applying a little bit more of that Stick-It, and then I'm using a tool here to pick up some beads. So these are just like little beads you can get anywhere. I like to put them in between my crystals. It just gives it like a different look and kind of a nicer kind of jewelry type look to it. So I'm just going to give that a full cure, and then I am now applying light elegance tack over top of the nails with the foil on it. I heard that this can really help keep your foil in place, and it makes sense because tack is an acid-free primer, so my top coat gel will want to stick to it. So you're going to apply the tack first, and you're going to cure that, and then you're going to want to come in with your top coat. So the top coat that I'm using on the shiny nails, on the glass nails, is my Kiara Sky No Wipe top coat. This is my absolute favorite top coat for shiny nails. And then on the green solid foil nails, I'm coming in with my Ugly Duckling matte top coat, and I'm going to make these ones matte. So I gave the top coat a full cure, 1 minute, and then I'm coming in and keeping the tacky top coat on, and I'm just coming in with a second coat of that matte top coat. I do everything in my power to keep my transfer foil on the nail and have it not chip off. So I'll let you guys know if this technique of applying tack and then 2 top coats will keep it in place. I guess you guys will see in the next video, because this is a new filming client for me, and I plan to film her every time she's in. So I guess you'll see how they turn out. So give that a cure, and then here is the finished design. I love this set so much. You guys know I love green, and she wanted bright nails, so I thought I'd incorporate my favorite color. So I hope you guys like this design. Let me know down below if there's anything specific you'd like to see, or any colors from Glam and Glits you'd like me to use in a set. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and please subscribe and click the bell to be part of my notification squad, and I'll see you next time.